Deep within the soul of each of us, there exists an endless tug-of-war between the yearning for perfection and the fear of exposing the flaws we desperately try to conceal. Modern life plants the illusion within us that only the flawless deserves honor and love. And so, we embark on a lonely, exhausting journey to become the perfect vessel, forever striving to retain every drop of life's gift without losing a single trace. But what if the very cracks we painstakingly hide are the places where the light can enter, the vital source nourishing the most miraculous things? The story of the two water pots carried by the farmer is not merely a simple allegory. It is a profound mirror reflecting our heartache, our pride, and our journey to rediscover our true inherent worth. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled among lush green fields, lived a diligent and simple farmer. His life was bound to the cycle of sunrise and sunset, labor and tranquility. Every misty dawn, long before the sun had time to lift the veil of night, the farmer would rise and walk the long, worn path to retrieve water from a distant well. Across his shoulders he always carried a yoke holding two earthen pots. One pot was perfect, without a single flaw. It was round, smooth, and proudly executed its duty flawlessly, never allowing a drop of water to leak. The perfect pot carried the absolute self-assurance of the untarnished. On the other end of the yoke hung the other vessel, the cracked pot. It bore a small fracture on its side, a mark of damage that caused water to steadily drip out, drop by drop, throughout the entire journey home. The cracked pot always arrived home with only half the meager amount of water it had attempted to retain. The perfect pot was steeped in pride and judgment. It viewed the cracked pot with contempt and pity. I am perfect. I fulfill my duty. I deserve the master's appreciation, it mused silently, while you are merely a burden, a useless waste. This perfect ego is the epitome of self-esteem built upon achievement and performance, constantly comparing and evaluating those around them. We often meet these perfect pots in our lives, the straight-A students, the career high flyers, the ones who always maintain a radiant smile. Yet, sometimes that perfection becomes a cold shell, separating them from compassion and understanding. They judge the cracked pot because they fear the potential fractures hidden within their own souls. The cracked pot was different. It silently swallowed its pain and shame. The taunts of the perfect pot pierced its heart like sharp needles. Day after day, it carried the heavy weight of guilt and uselessness. This psychology is terribly familiar to us. It surfaces when we feel we are not good enough, when we make a mistake and label ourselves a failure. The fear of having our imperfections discovered creates a terrible psychological burden. We work twice as hard to compensate for the imagined hole. The cracked pot believed it was a failure because it couldn't meet the basic standard of containing water. It didn't realize that this shame was slowly eroding its inherent self-worth. Until one day, the cracked pot could bear it no longer. In the brilliant morning sun, it softly uttered an apology to the farmer, its voice trembling with tears. I apologize, my esteemed master, it said. I am so useless. Every day I waste half of your hard-earned labor. You walk such a long way carrying this heavy load, but because of me, everything is wasted. Please forgive my brokenness and my worthlessness. The shame had almost shattered it completely. This moment is the decisive turning point of the story and the most crucial psychological turning point in human healing. To be healed, we must dare to speak the truth about our pain and weakness. The cracked pot's willingness to express its shame was an act of profound courage. The farmer listened with a composed and gentle demeanor, devoid of any anger or disappointment. This non-judgmental listening is the most powerful antidote to shame. When we dare to expose our vulnerabilities and are met with unconditional acceptance, that is when the process of healing truly begins. The farmer smiled, a warmth as bright as the sun. He did not dismiss the cracked pot's pain. Instead, he promised a revelation that would change everything. The next day, on the way back, the farmer told both pots to look down at the roadside. The perfect pot saw only dry, barren earth and scattered stones. But the cracked pot was breathtakingly astonished. Along the path, on its side, a brilliant carpet of flowers was blooming. Delicate petals, drenched in morning dew, swayed gently in the wind, radiating a sublime and vibrant beauty. The astonishment drove away the sorrow in the cracked pot's heart. It whispered, "It's so beautiful, miraculously beautiful." This was the moment of enlightenment regarding hidden purpose. The farmer revealed a deep secret. He had known about the crack for a very long time. He never viewed it as a fault or a failure. On the contrary, he used that very crack as a tool for creation. Knowing that the water would leak along this path, he had sown flower seeds along the roadside on the cracked pot's side. And so, day after day, the cracked pot inadvertently became a life giver. Every drop of water that leaked out under the weight of shame was the nourishment for those radiant blooms. This beauty, this joy, this life existed precisely because of the crack. Let us pause for a moment to feel the weight of this truth. The very cracks we despise the most are the source of the most unique gifts we can offer the world. In psychology, cracks symbolize trauma, painful experiences, and undeniable failures. We often try to patch them up to appear whole. But sometimes, it is our emotional leakage, our very vulnerability, that opens the doors to compassion and deep connection with others. This is similar to the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold lacquer to celebrate the fracture instead of concealing it. The crack is no longer a sign of breakage, but evidence of history and resilience. Thanks to the crack, the farmer enjoyed the daily pleasure of seeing the flowers. These blooms were not just a private beauty. They were a source of comfort for passers-by and a place where children's laughter echoed. The cracked pot realized that its value was not in its capacity to contain, but in its ability to spread life and beauty. The story does not end with the liberation of the cracked pot. It also presents a vital lesson for the perfect pot. For the first time, it felt a profound sense of shame. It had used its perfection as a stick to judge and harm others. Pride had blinded its vision, preventing it from seeing the beauty created through difference. The perfect pot realized that the efficiency it prided itself on did not bring the same widespread joy as the leakage of its companion. The genuine remorse of the perfect pot is a lesson in compassion and humility. We often get caught in the trap of complacency when successful, causing us to become distant and cold. Only when the perfect pot dared to admit the spiritual deficiency within itself, the lack of empathy, could it truly connect with the cracked pot. This reconciliation proves that no one in this life is perfectly whole in solitude. We need each other to achieve balance and to reflect upon our own flaws. The farmer looked at both pots with benevolent eyes and spoke words of wisdom they would both remember forever. He said, "No one in this life is perfect. All of us have strengths and weaknesses. The perfect pot has extraordinary value in providing life-giving water for my family. That is its purpose. And the cracked pot has magnificent value in creating beauty along my journey. That is a different, but equally important purpose." He concluded profoundly, "I need both of you, my children. If both of you were perfect, I would have water but no flowers. If both were cracked, I would have flowers but not enough water. You complement each other. You create wholeness in my life. Wholeness is distinct from perfection. Perfection is the unattainable, spotless state of an individual, while wholeness is the total acceptance of oneself, encompassing the cracks and the darkness. The healing message here is that we do not need to change our flaws, but rather change the way we perceive them. Imagine life as a giant canvas. The perfect pot represents the sharp, clear lines, while the cracked pot represents the soft, blended colors that create depth and emotion. Both are essential for the work of art to truly come alive. From that day forward, the two pots were no longer rivals but companions on the path of service. The perfect pot carried water home with humility. The cracked pot leaked water with joy and gratitude. One nourished the body, the other nourished the soul. Both were loved and both were perfect in their own distinct way. This profound lesson reminds us to stop chasing an unrealistic model of perfection and to begin cherishing our own uniqueness. Perhaps you resemble the perfect pot, always striving to maintain an unblemished external image. It is time to open your heart a little so that compassion and warmth can leak outward, refreshing other arid souls. Or perhaps you are the cracked pot, carrying trauma and fears that you cannot overcome. Remember that those very holes are the greatest channels for your creativity and humanity to flow out into the world. Your cracks do not diminish your value. They make you indispensable in an entirely new way. We are all unique vessels on the shoulders of the farmer, life itself. Stop judging your own fractures and those of others. Accept that sometimes failure, weakness, or difference is the prerequisite for creating the most beautiful flower gardens we never imagined. Let the tears of shame be transformed into the water that nourishes beauty. Let humility replace pride. Because the greatest journey of life is not seeking perfection, but learning to love and accept the imperfection within ourselves so that through it we can create the most meaningful and complete works. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be yourself with all your cracks and flaws. And trust that your cracks will produce the most vibrant flowers in the garden of this world. Live holy and love deeply.